Peace. What's up, everybody? So we're going to be talking about this full moon in Libra that is happening now. If you're watching this when I'm recording it, but if not, it's happening on the 12th of April. All right, and it's at 23 degrees Libra, activating the 7th house of relationship. So we are still in Aries season. We're wrapping up Aries season. So this is like the final countdown. All right, we just had an Aries eclipse 2 weeks ago, which was a wrap-up energy. So a lot of people who have been in alignment, who have been healing, who have been releasing, who have been addressing certain things, you're in a state of more balance and harmony right now. Or you're starting to feel more balance and harmony start to show up in your life. Because this moon is conjunct the asteroid Nemesis, and Nemesis can deal with like an arch nemesis. So there can be some chaos, something that you need to defend yourself on, stand your ground on, whether this be an argument, an issue. It could really be anything. All right, it's just some type of conflict that needs to be addressed, for sure, with this energy. Or if you have been addressing those things, right, and healing, like I said, you've done the work. So that Aries eclipse was a closeout and was almost like a celebratory energy. And even now, you know, a lot of you guys that have been in alignment shift find that a lot more peace and balance is showing up in your life, allowing you to have more of this balance show up in your life. So if you have been going through a ringer and dealing with a lot, then now this next part to balance it out will be filled with more balance, harmony, and peace for a lot of people. Now, this is important because we get to the opposition to Aries, all right? And it's conjunct the asteroid Chiron. The asteroid Chiron is all about being like a wounded healer, all right? It's the asteroid, and it's very important and good to know where your Chiron asteroid is in your chart, because it can show you where your triggers are, right? It can show you what you need to heal, what you need to work on, where you can get easily triggered. You can fall into old patterns. You can repeat mistakes. You can have blind spots even with wherever the house is that Chiron is in your chart. In this case, Chiron is in Aries, and it's been in Aries for some years now. But the moon, the full moon in Libra, is opposing the asteroid Chiron, right? Which is the wounded healer. So there are, like I said, there are wounds to be addressed, or there are situations that could be triggering right now, and there's a need to tap into that Libran energy of balance, harmony, peace, right? It's also next to the asteroid Eris, E-R-I-S, which is similar to the name Aries as well. They carry a similar energy, but with Eris, it is more of an energy where it focuses on conflict that can lead to resolution, right? On the positive, on the more up end. It's like conflict happening in order to reach a resolution. That's how it really works out with that energy on the higher. On the lower end, it is a lot of strife. It is a lot of triggering. It is a lot of just chaos, right? And it's next to Chiron. So I can definitely see this as people being triggered by old wounds, going back into old cycles, old patterns, and it really created a lot of chaos, especially with this full moon being about release and heightened emotions. You know, watch your emotions, watch your tempers, try not to be so triggered, because there are some who have done the work, but they're fresh into it to the point to where this energy right now showing up can easily make you go back into a past energy or a past behavior, or action. You know, it can be highly reactive if not careful, which is why it's a huge need to tap into that Libra energy of balance, you know, making sure that you are checking in with yourself before you're taking actions and not just being overly emotional, reactive through things that may trigger you. Now we get to the square to Cancer, and this is where we get into like what are some of these things that could be triggering some of you guys, right? Because Mars rules Aries, and it's been in Cancer forever. So that's why I say a lot of us have had opportunities to heal and to release and to really get in there and do a lot of that internal work to where we can't be triggered the same. You know, you've healed that wound, so now it's not an issue. You're now in a more stronger, more prepared phase. But for those who may not be there, these could be issues around the family with the 4th house, right? This could be issues with emotional manipulation. This can also be issues with self-delusion. So you have to make sure that you're checking in with yourself, being focused in thought, checking in with your intuition, right? Checking in with your emotions, especially when things are triggering you, because most of the time there's healing that needs to be done there versus old ways of reacting to the same trigger that's showing up. Because it will be something, if it's triggering you to that degree, it will be something that you can recognize right now. If, right, again, you're like utilizing a lot of that Libra, Cancer energy. All right, and then the last square is the Capricorn. All right, and we got the asteroid Erekos. And so this is just speaking of leaning on that wisdom. All right, leaning on that wisdom that you've learned from healing those wounds, from releasing that pattern, from being triggered and understanding why you're being triggered like that and what that stemmed from. So again, all of that internal work that you've done, you gained a lot of emotional maturity, right? Because that's ultimately how you are able to maintain a sense of balance and peace and harmony, even within the face of old triggers or old nemesis, enemies, conflicts, chaos. There's a huge level of emotional maturity that's required. I like to even think of this aspect right here, you know, when we're in, because we're in Aries season, so take action, right? Do what you got to do, because Aries is a sign of I am, and it is all about you. But this is a full moon in Libra, right? So you have to make sure that you're staying balanced in certain areas, right? And it's just like a judge. A judge deals with very triggering situations, right? Things that could really make them fly off the hinges if they didn't have a level of emotional maturity, because that type of emotional maturity and groundedness and balance allows them precision in their judgment calls, right? Because that's how this works. Don't allow anyone to trigger you and send you back into old behavior. One up that energy, right? And do what you really want to do versus overly being triggered and then emotionally reacting. That's almost like you fall into the hands of whoever is doing the triggering, all right? So this doesn't have to be a person, but this could be a person, or this could be just simply your own self, right? But I hope this helps someone out there. Happy full moon in Libra. Happy birthday to all my Aries out there, and I'll talk to y'all later.